So in the early 70s, I did a research fellowship with Maurice Wilkins, who, with Watson and Crick, got the Nobel Prize for discovering DNA, and I was in King's College. And then everything was thought to be inherited through the DNA, whereas before Darwin, Lysenko, and many people talked about the inheritance of acquired characters. So the idea that what was acquired during a lifetime could be inherited. And this now is all the vogue, it's all the rage. It's called epigenetics, and it's been discovered of many consequences, for example, of racial abuse. For example, there are people who are looking at the effect on the descendants of people who were in the Holocaust, in the Irish famine, in the Dutch famine after the war, in Finland, people who were exiled from their homes in Finland during the war. There's a greater amount of mental illness in the descendants of these people. So trauma creates something in the field which is then inherited down subsequent generations. And perhaps the most interesting example of this is what's called the inheritance of fear in mice. So this was an experiment done about 4 or 5 years ago in Atlanta, where mice were subjected to electric shock while smelling some very innocent smell, acetone phenone, which is like some flowers or almonds or a very innocent kind of smell. And then what they did was they bred these mice in vitro so that the parent mice would never meet the children mice or the grandchildren mice. And what they found was that the children mice and the grandchildren mice were terrified of the smell, so that something of the pain that was inducted into the mice when they smelt this was carried over through subsequent generations of mice by the smell itself. So this is really mysterious. So there are a lot of examples. In the nematode worm, something like 15 generations they found things being inherited, but not in the DNA. So this is very clear when you do the family work, that these patterns of trauma come down through the family and visit themselves upon members of every generation. And this work is about working with that. It's about seeing what is coming down through the generations and dissolving the patterns. And it's completely miraculous and instantaneous. And other members of the family who aren't present talk about something's happening while this person is working. Miraculous things start happening in the field, in other words, with other members of the family who aren't present. So it affects not only the person present doing the work, but it affects everybody who's connected in the family.